Welcome to another episode of Staying Indian. Now, corporate coaching is a $10 billion industry, and 77% of corporates who have gone through their executive trainings have reaped the benefit as much as 7 times in their career. And this industry is dominated by women. 72% of career coaches are women, and we have such a high achiever with us, joining us from US, Texas, Pavi. Pavi's successful corporate career, and then she moved to career leadership and coaching. And she has done TEDx talks. She has coached a lot of people, helped them to improve their career. Welcome, Pavi.
Hey Gaurav, thank you so much for having me here. Super excited for this podcast.
So, Pavi, I was going through your TEDx talk where you talk about how you moved from having a successful corporate career to career coaching. Can you share some highlights of this move?
Yeah, absolutely. So, growing up in a family of engineers, I really wanted to become one. So, I moved to the US for master's. And ever since I've been working in different tech companies, I started my career in Ernst& Young and then moved to the Bay Area startups. So, I was working in hospitality tech startup where I got introduced to product management. And then from there, I moved to Amazon. So the last 5 years, I have been working in Amazon and leading their product management for the groceries. And during that time, after moving to Amazon, the first 1, 2 years were really exciting. I was hustling, working really hard. But then at some point, I felt quite a bit of burnout and was quite lost on what's next for me. I just felt very disconnected from my true self and wasn't sure like what I was going towards. And that's when I got introduced to mindfulness, and it really helped me overcome my burnout and heal myself physically and mentally, and gave me more clarity about myself. And so, ever since I started learning a lot of different tools like NLP, meditations, EFT, and dived into the world of life and mindset coaching, most of them struggle with wanting money or wanting meaning. So my mission is really to help professionals get more, like both, like the money and the meaning that they want in their jobs. I've been working with really, ambitious and highly driven professionals who are feeling lost, maybe, not having that clarity on what's next for them, or just want something more, want more growth, more impact, more income. So I've been helping them to find that clarity and confidence and create their path forward.
Amazing. But before we come to mindfulness, burnout, these topics at a later stage of podcast, I would like to understand what do you mean when you say life and career coaching, and who needs it?
Mhm. So I actually started in the life coaching space, and the biggest difference is in life coaching, you kind of cover all the aspects of life. You look into health, relationships, personal growth, your career. You see like what is really causing the unhappiness or where do individuals feel stuck, and you create a more holistic plan to help them move forward and get unstuck. In career coaching, you're more focused on the career and not in other aspects of your life like health or relationships. But given that my background has been in life coaching, I blend both together because I believe the level in which you grow personally is going to show up in your jobs. Like your personal growth is directly dependent on your career growth.
So you highlighted what kind of professionals need it, and you also highlighted the difference between it. But let's say, if it's a professional, how can he or she identify that he needs a career coach?
So for me personally, like the people who come to me are feeling kind of stuck. They've been stuck in the same income level, or maybe they've stuck in the same role for a lot of years and they are not sure how to move forward. And the second is maybe they are stuck in some kind of toxic environment like bad management or lack of recognition, and maybe just not having the right projects, the right avenues to move forward. And the third thing is something happening in their personal life that is having an effect on their career. So maybe they are feeling burnt out, like maybe there's a lot of stress, Maybe there is perfectionism or lack of self-worth or lack of confidence that is really like holding them back to perform better. So they are seeing that their performance and their motivation towards work is like really dropping, and they have to kind of drag themselves to work and just not feeling that inspiration or passion anymore. So those are some signs to look for, to understand like, okay, like things are not going how I want them to be going. My dreams and aspirations are something bigger, but I'm not able to achieve that. I'm just stuck in the same starting line for a really long time. So that is when you can identify like, okay, I might need help, and figure out what is the help that you need. Is it focused on your health? Is it focused on your career? Is it like overall like personal growth? Or are you having like maybe deeper things like depression, anxiety? If it's something like more on the mental health, probably you need therapy. So really looking at, taking a self evaluation of how your life is going right now against how you want it to go. And if the gap is really big, then you know that, okay, I need some help.
Amazing. So you, I think, also touched upon bits of mindfulness to assess where you are and where do you want to go. But you also organize a lot of success strategy sessions. So can you give us a detailed view what happens in these sessions?
Yeah, so the way I do it is I first, have like a 30-minute clarity call, or even like a 20 to 30-minute clarity call. It's a very fast-paced call to help understand what are the goals and challenges that person is facing. Because oftentimes, like you said, we don't have that space for self-reflection, and we just don't know where our challenges are. So the goal of the clarity call is first to hold space for them, ask a lot of questions, help them to reflect and understand where their goals are and where their challenges are, what their blockers are. And that also gives me an idea if I'm the right person to help them. So if I feel like, yes, I can help you with your goals and challenges now that we have clarity on it, I would invite them to a more in-depth strategy session. If I feel that I might not be the right fit, I point them to some resources or point them to other coaches or other people that I think might help them. And then we go into the strategy session. So that is a more in-depth session for 45 minutes to an hour, sometimes even go slightly more than an hour, where we sit down and break down like where you stand right now in your career and life. Again, taking a deeper look at the blockers, the symptoms, and then from there, looking into your goals and aspirations and really mapping them all out. And then if and then we identify the pathways to work together. So now that we know, okay, these are the outcomes, and we also make sure that we are a right match for each other, I share more of my process and my pathway of how to make that happen. And then if it's a good fit, we move forward from there.
So in these sessions, do you also use some kind of tool sets or some kind of applications or framework?
Yeah, so in the strategy session, it's more of a time for you to evaluate and figure out and get clarity on what you want to focus on. So it's more so used to, ask the right questions to understand what's going on. And then the tools that we use starts after we, start the coaching sessions. So that is when I use tools like helping you identify your core interest, your core skills and experiences that you've gained over the years, and really understanding how to communicate them, and also on you having some awareness on what strengths and interests like you bring to the table. So we use a lot of tools once we start the coaching sessions to help them find that clarity and build their brand so that they can get to that next level.
Okay, nice, nice. So I was reading a survey that says 70% of people who have gone through some kind of a leadership training or success training have achieved benefits of it within 2 years. So do you have some examples or success stories from your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my clients, when she came to me, she has been in the industry for over 8, 9 years, and she was pretty much stuck with the same income level, and she did not have a lot of growth opportunities at work. So when she came to me, she was feeling really stuck and lacking that confidence in herself. So I use a 3-step process called like clarity, confidence, and communication. So those are the three main C's that I work on. So we first started with clarity, understanding what are the experiences and skills that she's gained, and also what are her natural talents, what is she naturally good at doing, because some are acquired skills and then some are, your natural strengths and natural skills that you have. So really looking into like the value that she brings, and then creating a clear vision and a roadmap for where she can go next. Like what kind of opportunities, like jobs, industries she can target, and not just looking at the next role, but also looking at overall what kind of a brand and career does she want to build. So looking into it more holistically. And then we went into the confidence part, which is where I use a lot of the coaching tools that I learned in mindfulness and mindset to help understand the root causes of these different blocks that she was facing. So, because of that lower confidence and lower self worth, she had a lot of beliefs about herself that I'm not good enough, I don't have the right skills, I'm not ready to go for these higher paying jobs. So, we worked through all of that and helped her build that inner confidence. And then the communication piece is super crucial because sometimes we just struggle with communicating our value. And that is what is needed. Like when you're talking to recruiters, hiring managers, or even out there, you just need to know like what you're good at and what you want so that people around you can support you. So we work on the self advocacy skills and also building your personal brand. So yeah, like we worked on identifying her thought leadership, and she started posting on LinkedIn, and through that, she actually, got reached out by a recruiter and the hiring manager. And then she got like 2 job offers. It was almost like a 50% increase from her existing role.
Sounds super amazing. You also highlighted on difficult workplace, that can be upsetting, right? And that can be one of the signs or one of the reasons of burnout. So how do one identify burnout? You have faced it yourself. So speaking of from your experience itself, how can someone identify burnout?
So, in regards to burnout, I would look at it in three different ways: emotional, physical, and then behavioral. So, on the emotional side, it's like frustration and loneliness. At least that's what it was for me. I would just feel frustrated for small things, have these different mood swings, and wouldn't want to like go out or do something fun. Or sometimes it would be the opposite. I would just want to be out and keep myself busy. So you deal with a lot of these mood swings, and mostly you're frustrated. You want to be disengaged from people or disengaged from work. Or maybe you just do want to be by yourself. You want to always be around people to keep yourself busy and distracted. So that's more on the emotional side. On the physical side, it's just a lot of tiredness. So it's you're always very low on energy, you're just super exhausted and tired, and probably your sleep might have taken a toll if it's gone to the extent of chronic burnout. If not, probably it's just like low energy and exhaustion and just not having the motivation and energy to do what you really want to do. Now, on the behavioral side, you can notice it by procrastination. If you're constantly procrastinating work or things that are on your plate and trying to escape, or you have to drag yourself to get things done, that's a big sign that you're, in that burnout or nearing chronic burnout. The other behavioral things are also like perfectionism. If you put yourself to really high standards and you're constantly pushing yourself to achieve, like, the type A personality of, at least that's what it happened with me, where I would just want to keep doing something, hustling and working hard in order to prove something to someone, like prove my worth. So a lot of these behavioral things that also happens when you're going through that burnout phase, which you might not even be very aware of.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of a 16 personality test that I did recently. That kind of shows you what kind of personality you have. So as you said, either you can be perfectionist, type A, or you can be a slow mover, learner. So there are like 16 personalities that anyone can be classified into. So I think it's good. Just Google 16 personality test and take it, and you'll know what kind of person you are. So that helps you to create that kind of a roadmap that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, and also corporations, have these burnout assessments. So, in fact, the funny story was I got an assessment from work to check if I have burnout, and I was like, okay, what is this burnout? Like, in fact, I've not even been aware of that word like few years ago. So I was like, well, let me take this test because it was more for your health and well-being. So I went ahead and took the test, and it started flashing red. I was so embarrassed because, like, what the hell? Like, I did not even know that it was, burnout that I was going through. But a lot of corporations are now, having these different assessments and providing these different tools for employee well-being and happiness. So you can take those opportunities to, understand where you're at and see if you need some support.
And I think sometimes the 9 to 5 job, the monotonous job that a lot of people are into, adds to that, right? Even if you have a challenging work environment, doing that in a routine kind of adds to that. So how can one break free from that, or how can one tackle that?
Yeah. I think the biggest reason for stress or burnout is actually lack of alignment. And what I mean by that is when your skills and passions and interests are not in alignment with what you're doing at work, like, who you are is not in alignment with what you do, that is the biggest cause for stress and burnout. And most of them who come to me are just mentally and emotionally exhausted. And that causes the low energy on the physical side as well, because you're spending like 8, 9, 10 hours at work, and when you don't enjoy what you do, you're not able to find meaning in what you do. It is really, really hard. Like, you're going to go to bed feeling just like unsatisfied, and that's going to really add up to that burnout and exhaustion.
So a lot of this depends on your realization and mindfulness, So can you tell us a bit on how mindfulness is important for personal or professional life?
So, mindfulness really means like you're being fully aware and fully present of what's going within you and around you. Because most of the time, our mind is wandering, like between the past and the future. And that's the nature of the mind. We think mostly about, what's going to happen tomorrow, what happened yesterday. And we're just not completely involved and aware of what's going on right now within us and around us. So mindfulness like is basically getting that self-awareness of your thoughts and your feelings. So a very simple tool that I share with my clients is um, I notice, I feel. So I notice that I'm having these thoughts, like I'm thinking that I'm not good enough, or I might be lazy, or I feel this way. I feel sad, I feel anxious, I feel overwhelmed, or I feel good, I feel happy, I feel grateful. So just trying to use that from a time to time basis, like maybe every 1 hour, just being like, I notice, I feel, so that you build that muscle of becoming aware of your thoughts and your feelings. And the reason that is important is because your thoughts and your feelings impact your actions. Like, you cannot ever take an action without it getting originated from a thought. So let's say you are going and ordering a brownie. You would have gotten a thought at the first place to want to have a brownie. You might have got that influence from an ad that you saw, or from what a friend told you, or maybe something that you saw on Instagram. But you got that thought, and that thought created a feeling, which is that feeling of craving or desire. And because you got that feeling, you went ahead and ordered a brownie, or went ahead and bought a brownie, right? So that is why everything originates from the thoughts, and our thoughts creates our feelings and emotions, and then we act based on our emotions. And then whatever actions we take, that's going to create certain outcomes in our life. So mindfulness really is becoming aware of your thoughts and feelings so you can create the reality and the outcomes that you truly want, and not just live life by accident.
So that's that self-awareness. And on a lighter note, I don't know how much you follow Friends, but that reminds me the episode where Ross talks about Unange. So, kind of
Yeah.
having awareness all the time about your thoughts, about your surroundings. But yeah,
Mhm.
you also touched upon Instagram and social media. So I think distractions are very kind of, into tempering your growth. And how can one avoid these social media distraction in this day and age?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to not get distracted by social media. We carry our phones with us all the time. So, my biggest tip there is create more than consume. So, the moment I started to create, like put content out there, share about my journey, the consumption went down. Like, in the sense, like I would show up more on social media to share. And that created a lot of, inspiration for myself and for others. So if you kind of use it for at a more positive light and use it for your own growth and to inspire others, you really have no time to get distracted by it because you're using it now in a different way. Um, so that is really my biggest tip. But I've used different tips here and there, like turning my notifications off and having like silent hours and, all those things I've definitely tried. But it's pretty hard because at the end of the day, you want some entertainment and it's either like, TV or social media. But if you can change the way you use it, I think that is more powerful than all these other tips you can try.
So what it's a kind of personal tip as well. So what I've done is I've restricted device per use. So I use phone for particular reason. I use television for entertainment. I use laptop for some other reason. So I don't intermix. I don't use my phone for entertainment. So I've deleted all the apps related to that from my phone, and I've classified workplace as laptops. So I've added all those apps. So you can classify the devices as well. That would also help, I guess.
Like a lot of my clients, when they came to me, they said that they've uninstalled the apps and they've, been out for 2 months and then they couldn't do it anymore. Like after a few months, they're back on there because they want connection. They want to know what their friends are doing. They want to feel like they're part of a community. So that sense of belonging and connection is always going to be there because it's a fundamental human need. So instead of trying to escape that technology, how we can use it better is what I would really love to share with others.
So I think it's clearly either you can watch others' life or create your own life on social media, right? So
Yeah,
that kind of
I love
sums it up.
that.
So I mean that's really a good example. If I was to ask you to highlight some practical steps like these that one can start to kind of initiate their self-discovery and growth journey, listening to this.
So for me, meditation really played a very important role, and people get very intimidated when I say that. They're like, "Oh my God, I cannot meditate." But it doesn't have to be that complicated. Like even 5-10 minutes of regular practice to begin with really, really helps you to have that space for self-awareness. Like we discussed on mindfulness, the thoughts and the feelings that you're having. It really helps you to ground yourself and first of all turn off all the noise around you and go inward to figure out like who you are and what you really want. So that is something I would highly, highly recommend to do as a daily practice, whether that's morning, midday, evening, doesn't really matter when you're getting started. Even simple practices like box breathing, which is inhale, hold, exhale, and hold your breath. So that you can just YouTube that and you will find a recording on that. And you can even incorporate that in between work hours as well, just to get into that habit of becoming present with your breath and your body. And then once you build that muscle for it, it becomes more like a regular habit and it becomes part of you. And then you can then think about creating more robust rituals and practices like, morning practices and evening practices and all that. But to begin with, keep it simple, just get started. That's the first thing I would tell. Um, the second would be working more on your mindset and your emotional barriers. It really is important to understand what are those beliefs and thoughts you're having on a regular basis. Like, what do you think about yourself? How do you perceive yourself? And how you can start to change them and shift them to support your growth. And the third thing I notice is a lot of high achievers, we struggle with appreciating ourselves and finding that gratitude on a day to day basis. So, a really important practice is learning to appreciate your efforts, not just the outcome and the results, but on a daily basis, you are making a lot of effort.
I think those are really important steps, and I think it's all about getting into the right mindset. And these steps help you to do that, to assess and get into the right mindset of achieving stuff. I was, going through short videos on Instagram, and I came across this video of Oprah Winfrey where she was asked, "You have interviewed so many leaders, so many, high achievers. What is the one common thing that you find in all of them?" So she replied that, not everyone, 99.9% of people don't know where they are going, and only the successful one knows where they are going. So that's the difference. Knowing what you want to do in your life, that's the answer to a lot of questions.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. That's why I recognize that clarity is the number one step in my process as well, because that's what I found.
I think a lot of people also face the problem of having that self-confidence. So how do one achieve that kind of a self-confidence and have that kind of optimal performance in personal and professional life?
So I really believe that self-confidence is in a way contextual. What I mean by that is the more you experience something and get to practice something, it's natural for you to become confident in that. It's always natural for something new or uncertain to scare you, and you might not have the confidence to do it. Um, and then self worth, on the other hand, is not context based. Like, regardless of what is presented in front of you or what kind of challenge or circumstance you have, you can carry the same level of self worth. So I, in fact, tell a lot of people, like, don't focus too much on confidence, build more of your self worth. Like, no matter how much you fail or no matter you mess up, you don't do something well, don't tell yourself that you're not worthy anymore. And then, as a result of that, your self confidence is also going to increase because you're going to do things outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah, no, totally makes sense and very logical. So, Pavi, I would assume that a lot of your clients would be NRIs. A lot of your clients would be based out in US. So, can you tell us some of the difference that you find or challenges that particularly people coming from India face in countries like US or Europe?
Absolutely. So most of my clients are originally from India, like who came here, like you said, as NRIs. And the common theme that I notice with them is they are now in tech industries because that's what US is really known for. Most of them come here to work in tech companies, but they feel very limited with their options because they think when it's tech, it's just software. Uh, and then most of them do not like being in the software industry. After a few years, they lose that passion and inspiration for work and they're feeling stuck. But what I've come to realize is within the tech industry or within the market, there are so many different opportunities and pathways within the US. Like people think it's either just product management or program management or software engineering. But within each of those pillars, there are so many different ways to make your interest, skills, and passions intersect. And you can work in healthcare tech, you can work in education tech. So I've helped clients move from, software tech into like pharmaceutical companies, food companies, like then go into like product marketing, which even though they did not have marketing experience, like moving into product marketing or product operations because they really like, being more in the operational side of things. So where I'm getting at is the opportunities are plentiful. So I would really encourage them to, work with someone or get some support or talk to more people to see what other possibilities are out there for them.
And do you also feel that there is a glass ceiling in terms of, NRIs getting promoted to higher executive levels as well?
At least in my experience in the tech industry, I've seen a lot of leadership roles are filled by NRIs. Like Indians or Asians are really in those top roles. So that's at least what I've seen in the tech industry, but not sure about like the other kinds of industries out there. But in the tech, I see that we are really dominating here.
Yeah, I mean, I read someone recently said that, out of 3 out of 5 CEOs in US are Indians. So, I mean, it's
Mm,
kind of a
yeah.
numbers speak for themselves. So, Bobby, it was a really great talking to you. I learned a lot of new things, and I hope our listeners did as well. And since our platform is based for NRIs, we talk about difficulties NRIs face away from home. So, from a professional perspective, what are some of the tips that you'd like to share with our NRI audience?
Yeah, so as an immigrant, one of the biggest challenges for me was going out there and really talking about, who I am, the value I bring and my story, and having an identity for myself. And it really comes when you go outside of what you're familiar with and put yourself out there. So for immigrants, I would say maybe don't get too stuck in your own circle of friends, because we do have a lot of immigrants here in the US, and usually I see us like being in those pockets, but not being out there where the opportunities are actually there. So if you're able to put yourself out there, like whether that's at work, within work, or outside of work, like for example, in work, making yourself more visible, being in those rooms that matters, or changing the way people look at you. Like we spoke about how you don't have to be seen always as the more helpful one or the hard worker, but you can be seen as a leader with boundaries. So, making those small shifts about how you're being seen and creating that advocacy for yourself at work is one thing that I would really recommend.
So I think, Pavi, you're doing an amazing job helping professionals realize their dreams and getting to the next level. Big kudos from Staying Indian Family. And I thank you personally for taking out the time and speaking to us and sharing so much detail. For those who want to reach out to you, I'll be sharing the link to your LinkedIn and Instagram in the description. So do check that out. And thanks again, Pavi, for helping us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Jayan.